Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Talkin' Jazz. And in the co-captain's chair, once again, the guy to talk jazz with at all times, Mr. Mike Antonelli. What's going on, my friend?
How are you, Pete?
Doing good? Doing good?
Yeah, it's good to be here. I thank you for inviting me on the show once again. It's always a great time. We always have fun doing this.
It is. It is. And this month, this is your idea. So Mike, a couple months ago, was like, "Have you ever talked a lot about John Scofield?" And I'm like, a little bit here and there. He goes, "Would you like to do a whole show on John Scofield?" I was like, "Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it." Because this is a guy he's got a pretty illustrious career when you're really thinking about it. Going back to the mid '70s and all the solo albums and collaborations and things he's done. I mean, it's encompasses quite a bit for a guy that from Ohio. Yeah, I didn't even know he was from Ohio. I thought he was from down south actually, but he's an Ohioan. Didn't
An
know.
Ohioan, and he attended Berkeley at the same time as Joe Lovano. They got to be good friends.
Yep.
Kenny Werner was there, Steve Slagle, just to name a few. Um, and a lot of very, very diverse players that he's been involved with over the years. Um, so I was introduced to Scofield through Lovano. Um, they played in Katona a few years ago, back early when Joe Lovano was the artistic director of the Katona Jazz Festival in Westchester. And Scofield and his wife Susan lived in that area. I don't know if they're still there or not, but he was a local guy, from the Hudson Valley, basically living in the Hudson Valley, and so was Lovano. So this is just a few years ago. This is in the, I'm going to say maybe 15 years ago, maybe around 2009, 2010, sometime in that area. And I was introduced to his playing because he was doing some things with Lovano, and of course, Lovano being my mentor, I'm like all over what he's doing at every minute. So anyway, I was really surprised when I started digging into this collection of how many different people, bigwigs that he's actually, played with and contributed to, starting with, Miles Davis back in the early 80s. And I'll tell your listeners right now, I did not pick any Miles Davis albums with John Scofield as my top 10, only because that he was new to the scene, and nothing to disparage Miles or Scofield or anything like that. But I think his career has evolved into so much more than what he was doing when he first came out with Miles, that I think there's so much material to pick from. I let the obvious stay in the obvious realm, like I usually do. I find the most eclectic things, the things that are most interesting to me and move me spiritually through the music. And quite frankly, this is going to anger some people, probably. I know. Too bad. Sorry. But I'm not a big fan of Miles' early 80s period. To me, that was a time when Miles was trying to be a rock star. And I really appreciate his earlier work so much more. But that's my personal taste, being a person who was in their 20s when he was doing a comeback tour in the 80s. I didn't really relate, that's all, to that style. So if you're looking if somebody's looking for me to suggest some Miles Davis with Scofield, it's not on my top 10 list. I'll
Spoiler
throw
alert, you might see one from me. So there you go.
good. So we'll make somebody
There you
happy.
go. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So
Just make one person happy,
that's it. That's it. That's
right?
it. Yep.
That's the life's
Absolutely.
goal. All right.
So
So
basically, we have a lot to choose from. So basically, I said to Mike, well, why don't we just choose our 10 favorite albums that's either a Schofield as a leader, co-leader, or a sideman. There's a lot to choose from. We've each picked 10. There's so, if you don't hear your favorite, there's a ton of albums in this guy's discography, folks. So it's like, you can't pick everything, obviously, but we've been listening, we've been checking out, re-listening, that sort of thing. So I'm pretty happy with my list, actually. Did you rank yours, Mike? I don't know if mine are in any kind of order or not. It's kind of hard to rank some of these albums. What did you do?
I did. I did rank them, even though, well, I did rank them, but I ranked them. They're all my top favorites. So you could put them in any order that you want. But I just, again, I'm looking for certain certain well-roundedness in my choices that really show you who the person is behind the notes.
Yep.
That's kind of what I go for. I'm trying to find the person, and this guy has so much soul and funk and heart and
Yeah.
style. I've never ever listened to him one time and said, "Oh, he's just riffing to show off." Not once.
Right.
Not once in my listening experience.
Yeah, and I'll
So
preface our ranking here by saying that Scofield kind of has done all sorts of different styles in this genre. I mean, he can do the straight jazz stuff. Mike mentioned how he's a very funky player. He's a very soulful player. Absolutely. He's got a nice blues background as well. He can do the straight up fusion stuff too. He can do rock stuff. There's an album that I love with him on it that I didn't include on my list just because it's a rock album. He did an album with Government Mule called Sko Mule, which is amazing. I didn't include it because this is a talking jazz show, right? It's not really in that format at all, but I wanted to mention it because it's really, really good if you want to hear him in more of like a jam band or rock kind of context, so to speak. So yeah, with all that being said, so since we have 10, Mike, why don't we go three at a time? So we'll go three, 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 and then we'll do our final pick last. So
sure.
what do you got for 10, 9, and 8?
Okay, so number 10, I don't know if you can see this.
Yep.
This is called Scola Hofo, and it's an album with that he did with Joe Lovano, Dave Holland, Al Foster, the late great Al Foster, and the four of them: Lovano, Scofield, Holland, and Foster. Scola Hofo, or actually Scofield, Lovano, Holland, and Foster in the correct order. This is a hardcore jazz improvisation album where it sounds like, to me, they went into the studio with a couple of sketches and a few ideas, kind of like the Miles ideas when Herbie and Wayne were in the band, and they just took off from there. That's what it reminds me of. It's some really deep jazz. The playing is very interconnected. Each sounds like each one is reading the other one's mind as they're playing. But you got to have some deep ears to check this out. It's not going to be something that you listen to while you're driving down the highway trying to focus on the road. No, this is some deep listening. So that's my number 10, Scola Hofo. Blue Note Records. I have the dates written down. Hold on. Let me get back to the dates here.
Yeah, it's an important thing to know here with Scofield. He's got some albums that are very tuneful and melodic, and there are others that are not an everyday listen, that are a little more chaotic and out there. And so depending on what you like, you'll find plenty in his catalog to fit both kind of sides of things.
I'm just looking for my notes here. 1 minute. Just bear with me 1 second. I want to get the year of this, unless you have it up there.
Uh, I can get it real quick because I was looking at all that stuff earlier, like release
I
date.
got it right here. Okay, Scola Hofo, 2002 from Blue Note Records. Okay, so that's number 10. Number 9, a live album that I recorded live from 2 shows, compilation shows in Atlanta, Georgia in 1999. And it didn't come out until released in 2015. And even though you say it's more of a rock album, I picked Skull Mule.
You did? Okay, well, that's good. Yeah, it's a great album.
I picked Skull Mule. One of the things about Scofield that I really appreciate is that he's very open about where he comes from and his influence, and you can hear a lot of that in his music, whether he's doing contrafact on All the Things You Are, or There Will Never Be Another You, or some of these jazz standards, or he's doing a pop song that he puts to his own with his own style. He is continuously paying homage to the people who have influenced him in his life musically, and we'll get to more of that when I get deeper into the list. But think about this one. There's a song on here, like you said, it's kind of a jam band thing, which he excels at.
Oh yeah.
There's a song on here by Wayne Shorter called Tom Thumb. It's off the Schizophrenia album, I believe. Uh, I think so. And we did a show on Wayne Shorter,
Yep.
which they do an arrangement of Tom Thumb from Wayne Shorter that is off the charts. And when I heard it, I'm like, "Whoa, this is spectacular." So I think it definitely deserved some recognition that he made my top 10. 2005 side, 2015 with the Skull Mule, um, which was the same year that another one of his albums. I'm kind of stuck in that mid 2000s
A lot of good,
vein.
a lot of good stuff from those years. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like 2010 to 2018. I have a few of those. Okay, so that's number nine. Uh, I'll just get get my things in order. Oh, by the way, that's with the original Warren Haynes played on that album as well as Alan Woody. The original guys from Government Mule were on that recording with him. The scope. Enjoyed that collaboration.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Number nine, number eight. Number eight. That's what I say. John Scofield playing the music of Ray Charles. Another reason why I'm so happy listening to this guy because he plays all kinds of songs that I've heard since I was a little kid, and he does it with such grace and such unique flair. This came out in 2005. Listen to the personnel he's got on here. He's got Dr. John on vocals. He's got Warren Hayes, the previously mentioned guitar player. He's got John Mayer on vocals. Aaron Neville on vocals. So David Fathead Newman, tenor saxophone, the late great him. Mavis Staples on vocals. So he's got a lot of people that are really into that soulful Ray Charles type bag, and he fits right in with them. And this is just an amazing, amazing album. If you like the music of Ray Charles, you haven't heard it unless you've heard it with John Scofield.
Yeah,
So that's my
it's like an all-star collaboration of all of them paying tribute to Ray Charles, basically. That's cool.
yeah, absolutely. And the way that it just seems like no matter what I listen to, you could pick out Schofield, it's him. And the other people around him, he just seems like they've been playing together for 50 years together. That's what it sounds like. No matter what I listen to, he fits into every crevice and crack that you can think of and makes it sound good.
Yeah.
So can't say enough about that with Schofield.
Cool.
So that's
So a good start.
10-9-8 from me.
All right. So yeah, and I'm going to kind of echo what Mike was just saying about how Schofield fits into almost any project or any collaboration. And I like the fact that he has always been a guy who loves to collaborate with others, whether it's sax players like Joe Lovano, whether it's other guitar players, which I'm going to talk about quite a bit, trumpet players like Miles Davis, and so on and so forth. He kind of fits into any setting really, really well. So I think as great as his solo albums are, in most cases, they're very much band albums, but his collaborations and work as a sideman is just as astounding. So my first choice here is from the 70s, and it's May Dance from Teru Masahino, the great Japanese trumpet player who's kind of like Japan's answer to Miles Davis. And this is a terrific, terrific album with a great lineup. It's from 1977. Tony Williams on drums, Ron Carter on bass, Teru Masahino on trumpet, and Scofield on guitar. So it's kind of like almost like a lost Miles band from the 60s without Miles and without, a sax player, and you have a guitar instead. So it's really, really good. There's great stuff on here. Wind Blows Your Skin is a killer track. Great trumpet and guitar solos from those two guys. Wild Lady has an amazing electric bass solo from Ron Carter. We're mostly used to hearing Ron doing acoustic bass, so he does electric bass on this album. Tony Williams is doing an amazing job throughout the whole thing. And there's just some tasty, tasty solos from Scofield. It's really interesting to hear Scofield in the 70s as opposed to some of the much later stuff, which I'm more familiar with. So I love hearing some of his early stuff because it's still Scofield, but it's a little different. It's a little raw, which I think is really good. Other tracks on here that are really good. Big Celebration is killer. Freeland, another good one. An amazing, amazing album that I've been listening to a lot of Terra Masahinu lately. I didn't have this one, but then I saw Schofield played on. And I listened to it a couple times. I'm like, I love it. I actually went and ordered it. I was hoping it would get here in time, but it hadn't. But really, really good stuff. Especially if you like the Miles Davis stuff. I think you'll totally dig this as well. So that's my number 10. Let's see, my number nine. I'm gonna go with. Let me find the image here. Loud Jazz. So this is his solo album from 1988. So he did a few albums with this lineup. Dennis Chambers on drums, Gary Granger on bass, and I will tell you those two guys together are a machine, a rhythmic machine. So good. Don Elias on percussion, Robert Aries as well, and also George Duke on keyboards. So amazing musicianship. This album is very upbeat, a lot of memorable compositions. The songwriting is great and a good amount of funk, but you can imagine that with Chambers and Granger involved. These two guys bring the funk big time. And Steve Swallow, the great Steve Swallow, did the production on this album. It's a great sounding album. Tell You What is a killer opener. It's got a great George Duke synth solo, a lot of tasty Scofield licks. Dance Me Home is another really, really good track. And I think Scofield's guitar tone on this album is amazing. And I think that has a lot to do with the production from Steve Swallow. But like Signature of Venus is a killer track. You get Dirty Rice, which if any of you know what Dirty Rice is, it's a dish from down in New Orleans. It's very, very famous. And this one's funky and soulful, really good. And then he has a tune on here called Wabash or Wabash, Wabash, was just a total scorcher. And he's done like Wabash 2 and Wabash 3 on other albums. He's done like kind of sequels to it. Really, really good. The title track is great. Really great album. Really, really good lineup. One of his, one of his, well, one of my favorite of his solo records. So that's my number nine. And my number eight, I'm gonna go with, let me find it here. That is Still Warm. So this is from 1986. So another really interesting lineup here. He's got the great Omar Hakim on drums, Daryl Jones on bass. Of course, went on to play with the Rolling Stones for many, many years. Don Grolnick on keyboards. So really interesting stuff on here. There's a couple, this album is very 80s sounding, and I was listening to a lot of the Japanese guitar player Kazumi Watanabe around this time. And I find the production of this album sounds very, very similar. There's similar feels going on here. There's a song called Techno, which has a very Kazumi type feel. It sounds like something that could have come from Japan. Hakim's drums, nice and funky. Scofield's lead melody lines and his solo in the song are absolutely killer. There's some laid back stuff here, like the title track is a little laid back and mellow, but really nice melodies. High and Mighty, more of a groovy type track. Protocol, high energy fusion. Around this time period, he was doing a little fusion, a little jazz, a little pop, a little funk, kind of mixing it all together. Rule of Thumb, great pop and bass from Daryl Jones, really nice licks from Scofield. And then you got Picks and Pans, which is absolutely memorable. What a great melody. And Hakim is totally killing it on the drums. Really, really good album. Among his my favorite of his 80s albums. So that's my 10, 9, and 8. Still Warm coming in at number 8. I'll turn it back to you.
Great picks. Great picks. Um, all right, I'm going to go with my number 7, which kind of is the opposite of your number. Was it number 9 where you picked Loud Jazz?
Yep.
Was that your number 9?
Yep.
So my number 7 is the antithesis of that, which is called Quiet, which was recorded and released in 1996. There's a great video on YouTube if anybody is interested, where it's live at Lincoln Center Jazz, and he does a concert where he does both bands. I think it was from about 10 years ago, maybe 2016 perhaps, where he had both bands playing, and he did it in one show. He did the Loud album, or he did the Quiet album first, then he did the Loud Jazz. and he had different people come on stage with him representing the different groups. Of course, some of those people are gone. For example, he had Wayne Shorter on this Quiet album.
Yep.
And he replaced him on stage at Lincoln Center a decade ago with Joe Lovano, a great substitute. If you can't get Wayne Shorter, you're not missing a beat with Joe Lovano.
No, not at all.
So Steve Swallow on the bass again, Bill Stewart on the drums on some of the tracks, and Duduka La Fonseca on drums on 3 of the tracks. Of course, Scofield. And then he had a horn section there with Quiet, with led by Randy Brecker, and a bunch of other people, a couple of French horns, a couple of flutes, people that I didn't recognize their names, which I won't go into right now. But great, interesting album. And what's interesting about the recorded version, I'll show you the cover, if you can see this.
Yep.
He's playing acoustic guitar.
Not often do you see that.
And that's all he played on the entire Quiet album was acoustic guitar. Again, what does this guy not think of? What does he not do? And I'm going to give you a little personal insight to his personality and who he is. He has in the liner notes here inside the booklet of the CD. Special thanks. He mentioned his family here, and he mentioned people at Verve and blah 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 blah. Thank you, this one, that one. But he also mentions his wife Susan. He mentions his children in there, which we'll get to a little bit later on. Weekend slumber party, tipped around the house, so and led him to jam elsewhere. And all my hometown friends, thank you all for being so patiently quiet in the house as I was writing and arranging these tunes. So that kind of opens up my mind a little bit to who he really is and what his influences in life that guide the guiding forces that make him who he is. It's not just the musicians he plays with, it's his family, and he takes special time to give them thanks. I think his wife Susan is a big part of who he is and how he develops the ideas. In fact, she's credited with several of the song titles on some of his albums that he's written, and the ideas for naming the songs, a lot of them come through her. Gotcha. So she's a very integral part of his music. What I'm trying to say is I think his music and his life are not two separate entities. It seems like to me like it's all one package, and maybe that's the appeal. So that's my number 7. Number 6, an album that I don't have a physical copy of, but it stuck out to me just the same. John Scofield, Grace Under Pressure, which was released in 1992. It's considered a jazz record by Blue Note Records, also produced by Steve Swallow. Joey Barron on the drums, new name, Charlie Hayden on the bass, and 2 guitars, Bill Frisell and John Scofield. Probably, there you go, probably 2 of the most eclectic sounding guitarists from the Berkeley era of the 70s. These guys were influenced, let's face it, it's the 70s. There's a lot of great music coming out in so many different genres. And I think that comes out in both of their playing, in their unique voice of who they are on their instrument.
Yep.
Both of them, Frisell and Scofield. And they're both so easily recognizable by their tone and their style of playing. So that was my number 6, Grace Under Pressure. Oh, this will probably throw you for a loop. My number 5 is this one.
Oh.
Uncle John's Band, 2023, and it's the trio that he's done probably the most work with. Vicente Archer on bass and Bill Stewart on the drums. That's his current trio. What I find great about this is, remember how I was talking before about how music is not. You just can't put it in a bubble. You've been listening to things all your life. You can't just say, "Well, I'm a jazz player because I only listen to jazz," or "I only appreciate." No, if you're a real musician and it's part of your life, everything that you've heard and everything that you've liked throughout the decades, somehow pieces of that are cemented in your persona. If you're a true musician, and that's why I picked this one because he's got classic Bud Powell on here called Budo. Um, he's got Stairway to the Stars, which is an old ballad that he just rips the crap out of. He's got the Rodgers and Hammerstein's Somewhere
Oh, wow.
on here. He's got Grateful Dead's Uncle John's Band. He's got Bob Dylan's Mr. Tambourine Man. I mean, talk about an eclectic uh, representation of your career and who you are. So all those songs and just the way he presents them gives me this as my number six, Grace under, or I'm sorry, number five, Uncle John's Band. So that's 765 for
760.
me.
Nice. Yeah, I have not heard that. That sounds really like
Oh,
a lot of
it's
fun.
Pete. It's so good, so good.
All right. My number seven is going to be a collaboration. So speaking of him collaborating with another guitar player, we just talked about him and Bill Frisell, which I'll talk a little bit about in a bit. But this is his 1984 collaboration with John Abercrombie called Solar, also featuring George Mraz and Peter Donald. So this is a duo recording of the two guitar players with the rhythm section appearing on three of the seven tracks. So it's like you get three tracks with full band, the other four with just the duo. Really great stuff. I mean, first of all, it's like, when you really think about it, if you know like both of these guys, you would think that they were made to play together at some point because their styles kind of intertwine, but they don't really sound alike. And I'm a big fan of Abercrombie, and I think he pairs off with Scofield so well on this. And what's really cool is on the duo tracks, you get one guy who's soloing and doing like all these cool lead melody lines, and the other guy is doing chords and bass lines. And it's really, really cool. I mean, just and they do it's named after, of course, a Miles Davis song, and it's so good. So both guys just blowing away back and forth, just really, really good stuff. Then you have a track like Even Steven, which you got Abercrombie almost sounding like Pat Metheny a little bit. 4 on 6 has the rhythm section come in. Really, it's a swinging burner of a track, really good. And I like when they have it's as fun as it is hearing the two of them in the duo setting where one guy's solo and the other guy's playing rhythms. I think it's really cool to have the actual rhythm section there and allowing these guys to go back and forth and just really burn. It's really, really good. Small Wonder's really good. It's got a great bass solo from Raz on that. And I Should Care. It's got some gorgeous playing from both guys. Really, really wonderful album if you haven't heard it. The Bebop album it's called, but Solar. Really good duo album from these two guys. All right, my number six is going to be he collaborated with this guy and played as a sideman with this guy on many albums. This is probably my favorite of all of them. This is 1976's Life and Times from the great Billy Cobham. So here the lineup is Billy on drums, Scofield on guitar, Alan Zavad on keyboards from John Luke Ponty's band, George Duke also on keyboards, Doug Rauch on bass. It's pretty much a straight fusion album, but it's a great one. I think Scofield just burns on this whole record. The opening title track is absolutely killer, and Cobham is just plays like a man possessed on this album. It's so good. Um, there's the song 29, which is really cool. East Bay is a total groovy funk piece. Earthlings has probably my favorite solo from Scofield on the whole album. On the Natural High is more funky stuff. And then you get this kind of really kind of laid back, kind of groovy song for a friend. It's a two-part track, and you got Scofield playing some acoustic guitar on this one, which is the probably the first time I remember Scofield doing any acoustic, and he didn't do it often. So you had that album that Mike mentioned before, which is all acoustic. So here he's doing a little bit of acoustic on this album. It's mostly electric stuff. So a really, really great fusion album. Like I said, he did a bunch of albums with Scofield. This is probably my favorite, but there's other good ones. That's my number six. And my number five is also going to be what Mike mentioned, Grace Under Pressure. I like this a lot. I mean, it's a great band. You got the great Charlie Hayden and Joey Barron on here, but I think him and Frizzell work really well together. Frizzell's an interesting player. He does these kind of like looping, totally not ordinary solos and lines and things like that. And I think it works well with Scofield's more melodic sensibilities. But there's some great stuff. I mean, You Bet the opener is a great, great track. The title track just kind of bumps and grinds and all sorts of stuff. It's really good. Scenes from a Marriage is great. I love Hayden's walking bass line on that song. Twang is really good. Drums are great. You got some horns that pop up on the album, which is really cool. And I think Joey is playing some great, great drums throughout the entire album. It's really, really good album. This is a very good period for Scofield. I think that like early to mid late 90s period, there's a lot of really, really good records. So for those looking to explore his catalog, yeah, he's got a lot of albums, but the 90s is basically when I got into him. So I kind of really lean heavily onto some of these early 90s albums. So yeah, that's my 7, 6, and 5. Turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you, Pete. Again, very, very awesome picks there. I
We have a
really
nice
like.
selection of stuff here, so we're covering lots of ground. We've only crossed over on one album so far, so
Yeah,
not surprised.
that's good. That's really good. Um, I don't know if you remember or not, but when I had the brewery, do you remember there was a big poster of Lovano and Scofield mounted on a
Yep.
board, and what that was all about. So basically, it's a reprint of the 19. I think it was 20. Oh, I've got to get the name of the guy. I got to get the year of this. It was a downbeat feature in December of or November. I'll find the year. We can put it in the notes later. But anyway, it got recognized. This recording got recognized by Downbeat, and Downbeat did a great uh, article about the record and the making of the record. So this was um,
Was that 2016, Mike?
2016, November of 2016. That's correct. Okay, so this album is called Past Present, and you see they kind of they used Past is Present as a kind of a mock-up of that title, rewording of that title. And basically this story focuses around how real life influences the the direction sometimes that we go with music when you're creating and so forth. I'll read you just the opening part of if I could, the opening part of the article. You can look it up. It's 2016 Downbeat November. It's available online if you want to read the whole article. But here we go. After a brutal winter, the Ides of March held the promise of spring this year as John Scofield stepped into a Connecticut studio to record Past Present from Impulse. The guitarist carried a ream of handwritten lead sheets, and the record date offered the opportunity to work through them with his old friend and tenor saxophonist of choice, Joe Lovano. The two musicians, both in their early 60s, had led lives that often intersected as they built careers, raised families, and confronted tragedies. Most recently, the death in 2013 of Scofield's son, Evan, from cancer at the age of 26. As Scofield and Lovano met that March day, nearly 2 years later, time had not healed the wound. No one expected the recording session to do so. So this is a period where two old friends got together, and most of this music was written at the time when Evan was living home, and he was being taken care of course, by his family, and his partner lived there. And some of the songs are, dedicated to him. But the whole concept of past present is boiled down nicely in this quote by Scofield. I'll just read you one more quote. Evan's presence remains so powerful even today that it has rendered the concept of time meaningless. Scofield said, quoting William Faulkner, "The past is never dead. It's not even present. I'm sorry, it's not even past. In other words, the past is always present
Right.
because as long as you remember it, it's in your mind. It's alive. The past is alive." So he goes on to say stuff like the idea of past present comes from the idea music is really timeless, and the whole thing of time, you start to wonder what the hell it is. So it's a very deep, reflective album, and the two of them really reconnected and connected again on this. I will tell you that the songs are very moving, very touching. He's got Larry Grenadier on double bass, who again has recently passed, I don't know, maybe a decade ago or so, also died from cancer, unfortunately. And Scofield, Lovano, and Bill Stewart on the drums. So it's the four of them. Past Present, of course, is the title tune, is the last tune. There's a tune called Hangover, which is suggested by his wife, Susan, about, shortly after Evan's death, how some of these things just kept coming back in her mind and so forth, memories and this and that. Enjoy the Future is another title, another tune on here, and Mr. Puffy, which is a tune that is very playful and it's kind of bittersweet, and it's a reference to Evan's physiology from the anti-inflammatory or the steroid medicine he was taking to try to beat the cancer. He gained a lot of weight from it, and they called it Mr. Puffy because of that. So there's all kinds of jazz influence, and it's really a jazz album. But if you learn the backstory, I would really suggest that you read the article from Downbeat, because there's a lot of information there. I know everybody doesn't want to hear about it right now, but it's really touching. It made me really appreciate the man a lot more than if I had not read it.
Yeah.
So that's number 4.
That's been rough to go. That's been rough to go through that with your child who is only in his 20s. I mean, that's crazy, right?
It's crazy at any time, but I think it shows his attitude is like, listen, it's all, your life is a collection of all present moments, and the present, the future, and the past are all connected. So you can't separate it, really. It's all there.
Yep. Yep.
Anyway, we're not going to get into philosophy of that right now. I have tunes to present to you, albums. I have albums to present. I know you have places to go and people to see and things to do. So we'll move on. That was number 4. Number 3, okay, something totally different. This is called Country for Old Men. It features longtime collaborators Larry Goldings on piano and organ. First of all, I can't say enough about Larry Goldings. He is one of my favorite pianist organists of all times. He's just so funky and so tasteful. What a great addition for Scofield to team up with him, and he's still working with him to this day. Steve Swallow was on this, and drummer Bill Stewart again. So basically the same as the one before it. Country for Old Men, and by the way, and Past Present are both Grammy award-winning albums. Best Instrumental Jazz Records for the year for Scofield, and he also won for Country for Old Men. He won Best Jazz Guitar Soloist for the year on one of the tunes on that. Writers. This is all written by country music stars, and it's a kind of a play on the novel No Country for Old Men, which was 2007, was made into a movie by the same title. When this was recorded in 2016, Scofield was 64 years old, and Steve Swallow was 76 years old. So hence the title, Country for Old Men. He's got I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry by Hank Williams. He's got Bartender's Blues by James Taylor. He's got Mr. Fool, which is among others, George Jones was a collaborator. Wayfaring Stranger, all these old cowboy tunes. Red River Valley, You're Still the One by Shania Twain. That's still the one. Jolene by Dolly Parton, Merle Haggard. All these tunes, and when he presents them, you recognize the tune, but it doesn't sound like country. It sounds like Scofield.
Right.
You know, Scofield goes country.
That's right.
Wait, it's a headline. Schofield goes, no,
But
it's
it ain't a
just
country
Schofield.
album, folks.
It's just Schofield being Schofield, picking from his vast memory and his repertoire of influence in his life. And the way he does it, you can't believe he's doing what he's doing. Then he ends probably with my favorite. It's so 31 seconds long. Johnny Mercer tune, I'm an Old Cow Hand, which he plays on ukulele. 31 seconds. He plays one verse of it just by himself. And I think, even though I don't know this for a fact, but to me, that's an homage to Sonny Rollins, a great tenor sax player who had an album with Ray Brown and Shelly Manne trio album called Way Out West in 1956 or 57. I think that album came out. And he plays with that trio setting the song I'm an Old Cow Hand. So I think that's kind of where Scofield might have gotten the influence to bring that into the repertoire. And I am so glad he did, because I thoroughly enjoyed, I still enjoy listening to this. It's so different, and yet it's just so great as far as the way it's put together, and the arrangements are fantastic. So that is my number three. So you want number two?
Number two, yeah. What do you got?
Okay. Number two, I got an album which I don't have the cover of for you to look at, but it's a Blue Note record, and it came out in 1994. Again, the period where you said he was experimenting a lot, um, featuring this great saxophonist Eddie Harris, Larry Goldings on keyboards, Dennis Irwin, another late great bassist, Dennis Irwin, Don Elias on percussion, and Bill Stewart. And this is called Hand Jive. It's the funkiest Scofield I've ever heard. He's got a tune on there, I'll Take Less, which is a tribute to Les McCann. He's got a tune on there, Whip the Mule, which I assume is to homage to the Mule Band. He's also got Do Like Eddie, which is pretty much the same chord progression, or the same riff and vamp as the Freedom Jazz Dance by Eddie Harris. So all great tunes, fun listen. This is one that you could put on the stereo in the car and drive down the highway.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's not so deep. It's just fun.
His real funky fun stuff, I think, is I think, if you are around people who are not necessarily jazz fans, I think some of his more funky upbeat stuff probably you could get away with playing to around a bunch of people who are not really, jazz aficionados, and they'll be kind of like, oh, that's kind of groovy, kind of fun. I think this album would definitely fall into that category.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Cool. All right. Let's see. My number, what is it?
Number four.
It's number four. Let me find my number four. All right. So we mentioned all the way back at the beginning the magic of Miles Davis. Well, I'm going to pick Star People from 1983. Now, this one's a little bit of a cheat because Scofield doesn't play on the whole album, but the couple tracks he does play on are pretty damn terrific. And the albums that came out after this, Mike, like Tutu and You're Under Arrest, and where Miles is getting really poppy and stuff, I like those for what they are. I agree with you that might be a little too further going into mainstream than what I want to hear Miles doing. But I
Mm-hmm.
think like The Man with the Horn and Star People, I think, are absolutely terrific because they still have that spirit of the 70s and still carry a lot of that funk over. So I give these two albums a serious pass and I like them a lot. So this is from 1983. So Man with the Horn was 1981. That was the first album after the long hiatus. This was the second. This has Marcus Miller on bass, who is amazing. Mike Stern, co-lead guitar, along with Scofield on here. Al Foster's on here, Bill Evans, and a bunch of other people. So Scofield is only on two tracks, like I mentioned. There's not a lot of songs on here to begin with, and they're all really long. But It Gets Better is this kind of bluesy, pulsating, groovy track. Miles is laying down some screaming trumpet, and then Scofield comes in with these just kind of looping lines that kind of like waltz all over the place. Really, really good. Um, he and Stern both like demolish everything in sight on this song called Speak, which is great. Um, there's other really good stuff on here. I'm not going to spend too much time talking about because I wanted to just hit on the songs that Scofield plays on. I wish that the two of them were on the entire album together because, first of all, I love Mike Stern. I think he
Mhm.
and Scofield work really, really well together. They did tour together in the band for a period. You can get some really good live recordings from this time period where they're both playing. Amazing stuff. That could have been a killer band if it would have stayed together. So that's my number four. My number three, let's go back to another collaboration album, which again falls right in line in that period that we've been talking quite a bit about. So this is I Can See Your House from Here. This is the album that he did with Pat Metheny from 1994. Again, Steve Swallow and Bill Stewart playing the bass and drums. There's a lot of tracks on this. I remember I bought this when it first came out, and I remember at the time I was thinking, well, this is a pretty long album, but CDs were, long at the time anyway. Each one brings their own songs to the session. So you'll see there's no co-writes at all. It's either a Scofield song or a Metheny song, but they bring their own playing to the table on each song, and it's not like you hear one song, it's like, oh, that totally sounds like a Metheny song, or that totally sounds like a, Scofield song. It works really, really well. Um, and I think both guys are at the top of their game. The title track is amazing. Both guys get to go back and forth on some really savage soloing. In fact, I think when they recorded this album, you have Schofield's on the left channel, Pat's on the right channel, if I remember correctly. So you kind of, if you listen to
Right.
phones, you can kind of hear what's going on here. The red one is really memorable, really funky. That's one of Schofield's tracks, so he brings some of the funkier stuff. Uh, you got Pat Metheny's No Matter What. That again sounds like his typical type stuff. I think Swallow's bass playing is great on this whole album, especially on the funky Everybody's Party. Uh, No Way Jose sees them both going back and forth. It almost sounds like like an instrumental Allman Brothers band song. So you mentioned Warren Haynes before. I almost feel like I'm hearing Warren and Dickie Betts going back and forth. Really, really good. I wish these guys would have done another album together because this is so good. But that's my number three. Great, great album. And then we're going to go back to 1990. Again, we're kind of staying in this period, which I think to me is some of his best. This is a really great album. So this is called Time on My Hands from 1990. So here we've got amazing band here. So again, and we talked about all these guys before. Joe Lovano, a guy we just lost the other day, Jack DeJohnette, and Charlie Hayden. This one is one of my favorites because I think this one it's funky, but not overly funky, but the entire album just grooves and swings, and Schofield's tone is so great. This has Wabash 3. I mentioned Wabash, the first one before. Is killer on here. Lovano absolutely slays with his sax solo. Since You Asked is so gorgeous. So Sue Me is really, really groovy, and I love DeJohnette's drums on that. So good. Stranger to the Light is a burning track, really good. All killer material on here, no filler. Really, really great album. That's my number two. What do you got for number one?
By the way, I just want to say, I Can See Your House from Here was one of my honorable mentions.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really
That we did cross on that one, and this one too. I thought a lot about that one, but I wanted to try to include as much diversity in my picks. So I tried to avoid the same band as I had the scope. The past present was basically the same band there as that one. Um, my number one pick, which I don't have the cover of it. I ordered it, didn't come in time, but it is called "Works for Me." and it is from 2001 um, on Verve. And do you remember Dave Brubeck did an album way back? Uh, oh, I'm gonna say in the mid '80s or so, and it was called New Lions, and it was a feature of the older generation combining with like the um,
The Young
oh,
Guns.
Young Guns, yeah, new Lion, old Lions and new Tigers, or I don't know, something like that. Tigers and Lions. But anyway, it was a comparison of guys that were like in their 20s at the time or 30s, like Lovano and like who else was on a Michael Brecker was on there. So it must have been the earlier 80s. Um, anyway, I don't remember the exact title, but this works for me is kind of like what Scofield is doing uh, with that same concept in mind. This has all guys who are like 20 years younger than
Yeah.
Scofield. It has Brad Meldow on piano, Christian McBride, Billy Higgins, and Kenny Garrett.
Garrett, yeah.
Now, you know how I feel about Kenny Garrett. I can't get enough of Kenny Garrett. So these guys are like 10 years younger than Scofield, maybe. And they are the young lions coming on the scene. And now these guys are the contemporary jazz artists who are all over, jazz radio and so forth. These Brad Meldow and Christian McBride, nationwide jazz stars. At the time, though, they were relatively new to the scene. And this band is all Scofield material except for the last tune, Freepy, which is only 2 minutes long, but that's like a jam. All of them contributed to that. That was probably something that just came out of the studio when they were just jamming, warming up. Who knows, or maybe just an addendum. But talk about really swinging, loose cannon, crazy, crazy hive. Um, then there's a 3/4 tune, Mrs. Scofield's Waltz on there, which is obviously for his wife. But great band and swings like unbelievable. So to me, that is a great lineup, and I wish they would have had more lineups with featuring those guys, and they still can because they're all still around and still very vibrant on
Yeah.
the jazz scene. But anyway, that's my number one. Works for me. 2001.
Recorded in New York City, as a matter of fact. Avatar and River Sound Studios.
Yeah.
Real cool.
71 minutes too. It's quite a lot
Yeah.
of music.
A lot of music on that. Yep. All right. My number one is going to be Blue Matter from 1987. Once again, with the great rhythm team of Dennis Chambers and Gary Granger. I think these two guys work so well with Scofield. I'm a huge Dennis Chambers fan. He's amazing on this record, and Granger is such a great bass player. But this also has Mitchell Foreman, as well as Don Elias, and Hiram Bullock plays a little rhythm guitar on a couple tracks as well. Love the title track. So, and a lot of this, if anybody's heard the Pick Hits live album he did in the late 80s, he borrows a lot of tracks from this album and a couple of the other albums that I mentioned on that live album. And you could even say they might even be better on the live album. But the title track is killer on here. Melodic trim, so good. Granger is just all over the place on this record. Heaven Hill is more of a blues track. So You Say is kind of funky. Now She's Blonde. Again, those trademark melodic lead lines of Scofield. So good. He drops this like ultra memorable stuff in all the time, which is really good. Um, but my favorite track on here might be The Nag. That's like so intense. That's pretty much a fusion track. So good. Everybody's killing it on there. If you like the more groovy stuff, Make Me is really good on here. Yeah, there's just ripping guitar work throughout the whole thing. Really good arrangements. It's funky, it's fusiony, there's good jazz, there's some blues on here. But I think if you're someone who likes the more rhythmic side of things and the more funky side of things, you got to hear Dennis Chambers and Gary Granger playing together, and they are dynamite on this album as well as the other album I mentioned earlier. So yeah, Blue Matter is my number one. So many good ones to choose from, though, Mike. So many good ones to choose
Oh,
from.
absolutely.
I mean, a couple of others that were in consideration for me that I ultimately didn't wind up picking. I mentioned the Pick Hits Life. I didn't want to pick a live album, but that's amazing. That's really good. Flat Out is great. East Meets West is great. Electric Outlet is really good. And then other Sidemen albums, which are, I mentioned the Billy Cobham album. So A Funky Thought Sings is excellent. Inner Conflicts is good. I had Skull Mule from Government Mule on here as well. I love that. Another really good one, if you like the collaboration with Bill Frisell, they both appeared together on bassist Mark Johnson's album Bass Desires, and I think that came out in the late 80s. That's really good too. Really, really good. That was kind of like a precursor to them doing the album together, the Scofield album. Gary Burton's Times Like These is really good as well. And then he also did an album with Medeski, Martin, and Wood called A Go-Go, which is also really cool. So, but so many, you really can't go wrong. I mean, I'm sitting here while we've been talking, I occasionally glance over his Wikipedia page and look at all these other albums that are great from him. I mean, there's just so many good ones.
Yeah,
It's just-
I also liked with you mentioned with Jack DeJohnette, who would just recently lost. They had an album also with two of the guys from Medeski, Barton, and Wood called Hudson, which was recorded here in the Hudson Valley,
yep.
and I think it might have been produced by Jack DeJohnette. I'm not sure, but they're all local guys who play together quite often, actually. And that was one.
That was indeed produced by Jack.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, that was recorded at NRS Studios in Catskill.
Yeah.
So,
There you go.
yeah.
And then also I like one that's not available on CD, which is only available on live YouTube studio recordings, which was made, I think, during the pandemic, maybe 2021, which is called Scary Goldings 4. And he's playing with Neon, the bass player, and Larry Goldings on the organ. And it's live in the studio kind of thing. It's not available on CD. I tried to find it, but I couldn't find it. So
Gotcha. Okay.
apparently, that's really funky. Great organ work. You know.
Yeah, there's tons of stuff. I mean, we only, he's played with Lenny White and Herbie Hancock and Joe Henderson and John Patitucci and Jimmy Haslip. Played on some Jack DeJohnette stuff. I mean, he played on a lot of Steve Swallow's albums. So Scofield has done a ton of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Tons. So there's no shortage of, if you get the Scofield bug, you basically can go in any direction here. And it's got a lot of solo records and a lot of collaborations, and it's all high quality stuff. So, so for everybody watching, list your favorite John Scofield recordings, albums, collaborations down in the comments below. And Mike, before we let you go, what's going on with you with music and things these days?
Oh, not too much. I'm still. We just released the fake news album. I have since I've last spoken to you. I've gotten the actual LPs in, so I want to give you one of those because a lot of the backstory is in the inside cover, which you don't get, to have unless you're holding it in your hands. It's not online anywhere, and I had too much to write, too much to say to put it in a CD booklet. So this one I decided to go vinyl. And I would say I'd like to give a shout out to my cousins, also Berkeley grads. See, I got my Berkeley shirt on. I don't know if you can see that.
You go.
I'll show you the lip there. My Berkeley shirt and my two cousins who are, the album Fake News is dedicated to the memory of my grandfather, and who happens to be these two kids' great grandfather on my maternal side. They go by the name, they used to be called the Thistle Brothers. Now they go by the name Suburnia. And they're just brand new artists. They're young guys in their 20s, very multi-talented guitar, drums, vocals. They write all their own stuff. Check them out, Suburnia. And it's the name Suburnia, Saburnia, with two extra A's, AA. So you can't miss it. If you look them up on the YouTube, you'll find them there. And they're new emerging artists. So I just wanted to give a shout out to them because they come from the same bloodline and the same influence that I have with my grandfather, who inspired me to write that whole album of 21st century reactionary music called
I'm looking them up as
Fake
we
News,
speak.
which you can find on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm
You
looking
can
them up
find
right
it on
now.
YouTube. You can find it on wherever you get your, yeah,
Yeah, they're on Apple
wherever you
Music
get
too.
your.
I see all the stuff. So Instagram, Apple Music, the whole nine yards. So, yep, they're there. Cool,
Yeah.
cool.
So that's about it. Yeah, I've been kind of like I told you pre-show. I've been getting ready for the winter. I'm cutting and splitting. Well, I do have a powered log splitter, so it's not like I'm Paul Bunyaning everything or John Henrying the wood, right? It's more like pull the lever, push it back,
There you go.
But
That's hard work too. That's
I
hard
do
work
cut
too. I get
all
it.
my now I do cut all my own wood with a chainsaw. So that's we have plenty of trees down, and I take everything off the ground so it doesn't sit there and rot. And we put it to good use.
There you go. That's the important
Kind
thing.
of reuse, recycle. That's the motto. So
Yeah, I hear you. Very good. So Michael will be back with us again in maybe probably a month, a little over a month, because we've got another show planned. We're going to be joined by our very own Scott Berry, and we're going to do a show talking about Miles Davis once again, but we're going to be talking about the live albums and the live recordings because there's a lot of them and there's a lot of great ones. So this will probably be an epic episode. So, get ready for an hour plus easily because there's a lot to talk about. And I know we've hinted at some Miles live stuff on shows in the past, but we never did a whole episode just talking live Miles. So we're going to do that coming up here on Talking Jazz. In between now and then, we'll have Alex and Ken talking about the CTI label. So stay tuned for that. Coming up in just a couple weeks, do a little retrospective of the CTI label and some of the great recordings there. And but you'll catch Mike and myself back again on Talking Jazz along with Scott Berry, probably in early December. I think we're looking at or thereabouts. So stay tuned for that. We got some listening to do, and as with Miles Davis, it's always a pleasure to listen to his music, and the live albums are pretty special, and there's so many great ones encompassing all those years that he was around. So till then, visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Stay tuned for Ranking the Albums tomorrow with myself, Rich Catino, and Stephen Reed, ranking the albums of the Swedish melodic rock band Heat. That's coming up tomorrow. Till then, for Mike Antonelli, I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching us here on Talking Jazz. See you soon. Bye bye.
bye, everybody.